Hey everybody, I'm a friendly tree and you're watching another episode of Nina Williams In Depth. Thanks for stopping by. Today we're going to check out Nina's Geyser cannon. So before we start, I always need to stress you've got to make sure your settings are right. So just make sure you've got everything set up correctly. You don't want any misinformation when you're labbing. You don't want things that look like an incredible combo and then you go into a real match and realize it's not actually possible. And unfortunately, the Tekken practice mode has a lot of things like that you need to be careful for. Anyway, moving forward, Geyser cannon. So this is a big kick. So down back 3+4, move number 58 in her move list. So double kick input, but it's a single kick upward. It's called Geyser cannon. I'm pretty sure it's called Geyser cannon just based on the animation because it's sort of an upward push like a geyser. And this is not a move that's unique to Nina. In other fighting games, such as Soul Calibur, Mitsurugi has an upward thrust move with his sword called Geyser cannon as well. So it's based on the animation. And you see here, it's a big kick upwards. She sort of pushes down, you can see her hand go on the ground, getting that momentum. It's quite a cool move, really. Sends them very high. It's one of the moves that sends the opponent the highest of her move list. Maybe counter hit quarter circle forward one's a bit higher, but yeah, sends them very high. And looking at it, you can see she advances forward, so we'd expect to have pretty good range too. Anyway, on to property. So startup, well, you can see it does 21 damage. So on counter hit, it's going to do 25 damage. Not that that matters too much. But being 21 damage, that's her highest damage normal hit launcher by 1 point. And now we need to think about why that is. So up forward 2-1, both hits are unscaled, 20 damage. Down forward 2, 12 damage. Back 1 plus 4, what's 18 damage. Up forward 1, 20 damage. And then if we get something like quarter circle forward 4-2, it's 22 damage. But you can see the second hit is scaled to 70%. And just the potential after that is not that good. Quarter circle back 4 is 20 damage as well. So it's 1 point of damage more for the fact that it's unscaled, or the scaling doesn't start until after that move. You can see the startup frames. It's 19 frame startup with 2 active frames, and on hit it's saying plus 36, but that's a launch. So if we go on block, it's minus 17, and because of the 2 active frames, that means that it can sometimes be minus 16. So that's worth keeping in mind, but that also demonstrates to us that it's a very high risk move, isn't it? Let's go on to range. So it looks like it's got a lot of range because of the pushback. Sorry, not the pushback, the advancing forward that she does. So if we go to about range, we're probably a bit too far away here, a bit further forward. There, so about 2.75 to 2.8, it'll hit. So if I go 2.8 again, let's try and get that 2.8 marker. Yeah, so it's about 2.75 is about the cutoff in my opinion. And that's good. That is really good range when you think about it, compared to any other launcher she has. Unfortunately, there's always bugs. Why are there always bugs? I do not know. But I'll need to demonstrate this. So here's an example here. Let's say we set the AI to backdash. So we just saw 2.75 range, right? If I go jab, they backdash. The furthest they get is 2.1. Looks like for a fraction there's 2.15. So if I do that, they backdash, they don't move, that hits. But if I do this and do a Geyser cannon instantly, it gets backdashed. And that's just a demonstration of, I guess it's the push block of the character backdashing, where suddenly this move has less range than it should. And that's pretty devastating, because I mean, you've got other things with less range that they cannot backdash here. So you'd expect that one of her higher range moves would not be backdashed. You'd think this would just be blocked, right? And I mean, on block it's minus 17, so it's not exactly like it's a safe launcher you're throwing out or anything. It's high risk even if it is blocked. But here it is completely whiffing, meaning they can just hit you with anything they want. So people seldom use this move because of that. They've got to be very careful using it, except as a whiff punisher, I suppose. Yeah, tracking. So unfortunately, this is also a very linear move. So if they go sidestep left, Geyser cannon whiffs. Oh. Sidestep right. Geyser cannon whiffs. We can try different frames and it'll do a bit better, of course. But anything's going to catch you at +8. +7 they can still kind of step it, yeah, but only if they sidestep right. Yeah. So it's got slightly better tracking to Nina's right or the opponent's sidestepping left, but it's kind of negligible. And I mean, if we do things like look at the lower frames here, it's the same deal. Oh, okay. But yeah, you're kind of crazy doing it in that kind of situation, aren't you? Oops. Yeah, so it's a very linear move, so it's not something you're going to be using to catch someone stepping. There are a few little tricks to this move that I need to talk about, and one of them is realigning yourself. So as you saw before, doing that, it's linear, but of course you can tap forward or tap back. Oh, tap forward or tap back with the right timing and you will realign yourself. I find tapping forward easier, but you can do both. Yeah. So think about realigning yourself, because technically that will only take about 2 extra frames to do, and it's all about situation. If you're not using it as a punisher, then you can do that to catch them stepping, but once again it's pretty high risk to do in that situation. Of course it's a high level launcher, so we can get a lot of damage off it, and it's one of the few launches you can do where you can get a sidestep 1 straight after, or one of the few normal hit launches. The exception being down for 2 on a couple of characters, quarter circle back 4, which just didn't work for me. Come on, tree. Yeah. And upward 2-1, of course. But yeah, so it's got good combo potential, but there is another catch with this move, something that is another reason why people will often opt to do something like back 1+4 or upward 2-1 instead, and that is the axis. So if I set the AI to not get up at all, we'll go guard all again. And if you look at let's say a down foot 2, see how I'm standing there and the AI is just directly in front of me. If I do a back 1+4, slightly off axis, as in the AI is slightly to my left, or I'm sort of on axis to sidestep right, which is what Nina generally wants to be. If we then go to this one, she's quite a way off axis to the left. That may not seem like a huge deal, except it means it's less consistent or just harder to do things like the while standing 1 juggles. So you can get into other situations of punishment, and sorry, the first one that comes to mind for me is Bob. So I'm going to go to Bob for this quickly. You come to punishing some different situations and you're going to find that you're far too off axis to do what you want. So if the opponent has a move that sets them off axis for the punish too, like Bob's crouch dash 2, it's a big punish, easy punish. Big punish, easy punish doesn't do it. Come on. So I'm even further off axis there. So that means I do something like this, there's no way I'm getting while standing 1s consistently on that axis. Or I'm at least limited. Yeah, see? Of course you can do things to change that, like use an up forward 4, but you're still off axis to do what you want really. So despite it being a higher damage launcher, the opportunities afterwards are often a bit more limited. We want to go preset 7 for that cool story mode costume. Don't know why that's not like the default costume in this game, right? Like for ages in tournaments we all just had to use the wedding dress. Nothing wrong with the wedding dress, but the cat suit's cool. Okay, so we've talked about on hit, we've talked about on block, we've talked about the range, we've talked about the tracking, and we've talked about the realignment and the properties on launch really. There is more you can do with it, but I'll go into application. The other thing I wanted to talk about is how you can do this move. So it can also be done out of Nina's crouch dash. Her down forward. Not a quarter circle forward, but a down forward. And that of course is going to give it some added high evasion in the properties. I wouldn't say its evasion is really something you'd rely on. Like, yeah. Or make it slightly. Oops. What am I thinking? Wrong Nina. Yeah. So you can evade with this, but it's a little bit finicky. But what you can do is you can do... Right, you probably can't because of the bug. Yeah, there we go. You can do that to sort of sneak under moves and confirm. But at the same time, once again, you could do that instead. So it's kind of a moot point there. Alright, anyway, let's go on to the application. So how do we use Geyser Cannon? Well, first and foremost, this is a block punishment and whiff punishment tool. We need to be aware of the bugs, of course, and just aware of her other options, but that's still clearly how this move is intended to be used. So if you're outspacing your opponent and you see them whiff a button, you can go pow, and then you get a big combo that you probably drop like me. No, you probably don't drop. You're probably good at this. So yeah, it's a pretty high damage combo move. I definitely use it as a block punisher or a whiff punisher. It's her slowest of her consistent, being a 19 frame, but that doesn't mean you can't still use it against some of the more unsafe moves. To be honest, the most unsafe move that comes to mind for me is a full crouch down 4. Yeah, that's totally it. Is wipe the floor. So obviously with wipe the floor you recover crouching, so you can't do the move right away, but you can tap up and crouch cancel and easily get that. So if you want to go for that 1 point of damage compared to the up forward 2-1, that's usually her more optimal while standing punish. Yeah. Compared to if I do the same combo here, it'll do 78 points of damage. So for that 1 point of sweet damage, you can increase your input difficulty by quite a bit by doing a crouch cancel into a Geyser Cannon instead of an up forward 2-1. But I mean, that is optimal stuff, isn't it? Honestly, that's the biggest application in my opinion. I don't have much else with this move. So it used to be a tag launcher in Tag 2, so you do things like that to get a free tag out, but it's kind of been made irrelevant now because you've got better options and you can't tag out. So it used to be used as a safe way to tag the opponent out. Now it's kind of, the recovery is a bit funny. You wouldn't really use it in many opportunities except for as a block punisher or a whiff punisher. So I think I need to go into some of the more specifics with this move. With it you can go through the opponent with a quarter circle forward 1, like you've probably seen me do on a video recently, because that means if you get them back turned and you time it right, damn, this is more finicky than I remember. If you time it right, you can get them to hit with different moves like that, or you can just dash under, get the timing right, and you can do a jab. Come on, Nina. Yeah. Anyway, so it's a move that you can use to, I guess, position them back to the wall if you want, at the cost of a lot of damage. But it is one of those moves that you could do that where you're sacrificing damage to side swap again. If you get a punish and you're like, oh hey, the wall's right behind me, and you want to be like, oh hey, I can whiff a jab. But more often than not, you're going to be using it and then doing it into just different combos. Yeah, and dropping it like that. So I think I do need to go into some of the more specific stuff. Maybe we can go to the wall first, and then we'll go into the character specific things. So if we go to the wall, and this is probably one of the more common uses for Geyser Cannon, except for doing the whiff punish and the block punishment, which really it's the biggest use, guys. You're not going to be throwing this out with the anticipation of high crushing when you've got things like up forward 2-1 in its place, or even quarter circle back 4. But if you get the opponent to the wall, you do have some scary oki with it, and I have demonstrated this before, but I can't remember if I showed it in full depth. So if we get the opponent... Okay, so you'll all be familiar, you can do things like that for the cross up with the shamrock. But if I do that again, and they go the other way, of course that's not going to cross up. You can still get a cross up if you think they're going to go this way, but the Geyser cannon, and you got to time it right. Because there we go. So that was a cross up there. So what I do is I go off axis that way, and I do it faster than that. I think I need to be a bit more off axis. Ugh. Yeah, it's a bit finicky. It's a bit finicky on females. There we go. So that's a good way you can use this move as a cross up, and it's also come on tree. If you do the crouch dash into it, and you don't stuff it up and do the throw. How am I stuffing that up? You can do it off axis, on a front on axis too. So if they tick right. Ugh. At least the throw catches them. There you go, there's some tech. Oh my god, I didn't even get the one to come out. Oh yeah, I got the forward. Whoops, sorry. Yikes. If you get the timing right on that, you can get it to cross up. And you generally try and do the ones with more recovery. But I think even if you're off axis, it still makes it more consistent there. Oh my god. I don't do this. I don't do this. Okay, I've shown how I use it anyway, so I use it in this situation like that. Another thing I need to talk about with this move is it did used to have a lot of pushback, and unfortunately it's been a bit normalized, so now regardless it's pretty close. So before it was kind of hard for people to punish. Like I think a lot of characters just couldn't really punish it effectively, but now even Nina's down forward 2 will reach. And it's not going to be a case of, oh, it's a tip range, it's just going to reach. So yeah, it's been made a little bit less viable in a lot of matchups when instead you could do something like an up forward 2-1, a frame faster, still got some high evasion, and only neg 13. So it's been kind of trumped by that, or been kind of made irrelevant in a lot of situations. But Noctis comes to mind as a little bit of a situation. You could probably use this. Obviously, if Noctis blocks this, he can punish at any range very easily too. So you gotta be careful with it. But you can OS his teleport stuff. It's not really viable. But if I'm holding back there, for example. What do? You tap forward, or you tap back. Oh my god! Yeah, you tap back. So 1, 2, 4. Ah. Oh my god! You confirm it and then you do it, and it'll punish. So the benefit of this is, of course, if he does the 1, 2, 2. You're just going to block and punish it. If he does the 1, 2, 1 plus 2. Yeah, you can look for it and you can decide what you do from there. Hold on. No, you can also sidestep, because you can risk eating the 1-2-2 and have that, and you go sidestep and you get that. Or if you do 1-2-4, 1-2-3, I think you sidestep left. I think it's a quick sidestep left. Yep. Dun, dun, dun. Yep. So the sidestep left works. So you cover 3 out of 4 of the options there, and if you sidestep left, you get hit by the 1-2-2. Yep. Which isn't that big a deal. I mean, look at the frame advantage. He's only +1, and it's not much damage. Okay. I really don't know what else we can talk about with this move. It's it's just kind of been trumped by up forward 2-1 in my opinion. So I wouldn't really use it much. It's just as a whiff punisher or a block punisher. If you're really confident with your block punishment and you're not going for a while standing 1 combo, I'd do it. But I'd generally do up forward 2-1 instead, or reverse ivory, because the damage difference is so negligible. Unless you want that 1 extra point and you're not going for max while standing 1, then yeah, but you've just got the creative freedom here. You're not off axis, so you can do what you want with it. While Geyser Cannon, just because of that being off axis, I just don't find it as appealing. So I think that's how I use Geyser Cannon. That's a couple of examples of how I use it, but it's not a move that's very valid in my game plan, at least. I do still use it to whiff punish, but it's really, you've got to know it's going to hit. You've got to be certain it's going to hit if you're going to use this move, because the risk is far too high in my opinion at -17. Considering if it put her off axis in the other direction, because you'd have much better combo potential. Like if it was just like reverse ivory cutter in the axis, and you could do the sidestep 1, you'd have crazy potential with it, and I think it would be a bit more worth the risk. But with the backdash bug it has, with the very minimal high evasion, and with it being -17, I wouldn't really use this move over up forward 2-1 very often. Still a cool move though. I'd like them to change it a little bit and make it a bit more valid. Oh, I almost forgot to mention some of the setups you can use with this move. Once again, up forward 2-1 is often better, but it still has its viability. So things like back 3-4, if they get up in any way, you can catch them for a guaranteed launch, if you get the timing right. Because of it being a frame slower, that doesn't make sense. Anyway, depending on the timing you get there, it will be guaranteed as long as they don't stay grounded. So if you set them like this, it'll still whiff, and then you're left vulnerable again. Another situation is if you do a crossbody leg lock, so that's the tackle here, that'll hit them if they do anything. So as long as they don't stay grounded, come on, Nina, backdash further. As long as they don't stay grounded, then you'll get that. And depending on what they do, so let's say they just stand up, I forget what it is. There's something you can do and it makes them launch. Probably get up kick. Anyway, it's scary in that situation because if they move in any way, you hit them. There we go. So depending on what they do, that can be a guaranteed move there. Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to share that. Now we'll go on to the next part. Nina's Geyser Cannon is a single hit mid 19 frame launcher with 2 active frames. It sends the opponent very high into the air and does 1 more damage than any of her other normal hit launches before scaling comes out. So that does not include quarter circle forward 4-2 due to the scaling. Unfortunately, this is kind of trumped by the fact that it has a backdash issue and the fact that it is so unsafe on block for what is only 1 more point of damage compared to some of her other launches, such as up forward 2-1. which is also a frame faster. It also sends the opponent to the side, meaning that you're off axis, you are on the left side, where you cannot as easily do while standing 1 combos, compared to other launches such as reverse ivory cutter, which does the exact opposite, or up forward 2-1, which leaves you straight on. The backdash bug means that while you should be able to hit them at ranges up to 2.75, you can't in some situations, depending on the timing of their backdash, and this leaves you very vulnerable, both vulnerable on hit and block. So it's not a move that you really want to use outside of risky, strong setups or guaranteed hits. Anyway, I still think it's a cool move, and I'd love it if they made it a bit more viable. It's also very linear, but that just confirms further that it's mostly used as a block punisher and a whiff punisher. Or, like I said, some good setups, like cross-ups at the wall. Anyway, how do you use Geyser Cannon? I'd love to see some more viability of this move, but anyway, we'll catch you next time. Thanks, everyone.
You win.
What's done is done.